So thank you so much all for connecting, and this is amazing group. I wanted to mention that I really appreciate what you've been doing and accommodating our students. And getting back to Humayun's question, regardless the DRC policy and whether the student is at DRC or not, I think we all have to understand this is a time situation or very hard time for everybody. And I think we mentioned this over and over in the past few months, but now it's getting even worse, because at the beginning there were some part of the online was maybe exciting for faculty and students. Now it's getting really, I'm sorry to say that, boring. People have other issues of self-isolation or social distancing, which add another stress to them. Many of the projects that they used to do together, now they have to do through Zoom, which they lost that ability of connection with each other. And remember, these are 17, 20-year-old kids. They are not like adults. So whatever you can to accommodate them, regardless of their DRC or not, I really appreciate it, because I think we should give the benefit of doubt to these students that none of them, they wanted to take advantage of the system. There might be some, but we don't want to generalize that. And we need to understand that they need help more than ever to surpass these circumstances. So I wanted to thank you and what you've done and what you're doing. So getting back to Humayun's question, I can clarify with DRC what are the expectation and policy, but I don't think it has changed since we've gone online. But the whole message across the university is to accommodate the students as much as you can. Now, for today, we don't have any set agenda, but there are a couple of items that we wanted to make sure we discuss. One is those who taught or teaching this term or also taught in summer, they have gathered a bank of information, a lot of experience about the online teaching. For those of us that we're going to start teaching in January, I think that the information will be very valuable. Basic do's and don'ts. What are the things that you learn and you really recommend not to do or to do? The other thing is about our labs. We have, or you're going to be contacted by the technicians. If you haven't, make sure that you contact the technicians and your TA to start producing your labs for term 2, for the online labs. I know we have a lot of labs for term 2, so it's going to be lots of time constraint in terms of the technician and video shooting. So make sure that you have that in your under your radar. And the last one I wanted to mention before I give the floor to everybody to share the experience is that I know some of you have concern about the amount of workload or work that the faculty members also have to do for the DRC students, to give them extra time for quiz or so on and so forth, accommodate their timeline. I talked to the DRC and I said that can we assign one TA in each course that they go to the Canvas. Of course, the instructor has to share the name of the DRC student, and the TA can arrange their time for quizzes and exam for those students. So the instructor doesn't have to spend their time to see that whether X needs 1.5 hours, 1.5 times more, or one time more, or whatever the conditions are. So they say, yes, no problem. We have no legal issues. The only thing, if you decide to do that, you need to give the name of that TA to me. So I send it to the DRC person to sort of train them about the confidentiality. That's the only thing that they want to talk to them. And after that, they can be in charge of the Canvas for the DRC student. Of course, CTL has to give access to them. And then that will reduce maybe a little burden from the faculty member, which understand that you are also under pressure. So I stop here, and I know that Yang might have some other material he wants to share, but this is basically an open forum for everybody to share what they learned, what their concerns are, what are the things we need to do or continue doing, what are the things we have to stop doing, so we have much better path to go forward. Yang, do you have anything to mention before we open the floor?
Sure, I just probably just mention about the DRC again. As I was explaining to Rehan also the other day, everybody's a victim nowadays, you know, given the online teaching. Students are victim, we are a victim, and DRC is also a victim. So if you talk to them, they said they are busier than ever. So the accommodation It was a lot of information, but it turned out it's not too bad. You know, when you accommodate using Canvas quiz, it's just basically a few clicks for each student to give them extended amount of time. So if you have a large class, as Mina mentioned, certainly we can assign one TA to help you basically do all this assignment, different settings for different DRC students. But unfortunately, we have to accommodate basically. Now, of course, if your quiz or exam has already taken into account of this time, for example, you give them 24 hours, so you don't need to do anything at all, right? Basically, you're giving blank accommodation to everybody. So in that case, then you don't need to set any individual accommodation for DRC students.
So Yang, I have a couple of questions regarding your comment and Mina's comment, because I'm deep into this right now. So number one, it is true that is a couple of clicks, but imagine there are 6 students. Each of them, they have different accommodation. One is 1.25x, one is 1.5x, one is 2x. And then I have 11 quizzes. That makes 6 multiplied by 6, that is 36 clicks, multiplied by 11 quizzes, that makes it about 400 clicks. It's not just a couple of clicks. The other thing is that every time I have to remember who is who. So I have to go to the list, which is not available. I go to a website, extracts the name, or maybe take a note, which I don't, it's not a good practice because of privacy. I don't want to record this anywhere. Every time I have to go and remind myself, this is the person with 1.25x, the other one is 1.5. And by the way, that is the accommodation that DRC promises. I would be more than happy to let them come to my campus to be one of their TAs and do whatever they want. They do that a few clicks themselves. That is one issue. The other one is that, so I go with the other one and say that, you know what, I give the blanket. But this is not the practice I wanted to do. So I'm just changing the quality of my teaching and learning practices because there is no other way. So I'm just compromising the education of UBC, its reputation, because we have a few, and by the way, they are not vetted. I can promise you that if we go, some of them may not need 2x, they may need 1.5x. Who comes up with these numbers? So that's one issue. The other one is we never had problem with quiz and assignments. Now these students are asking me to also extend their assignment time. So I have 6 assignments. That means they are going to finish the term in mid-February because I cannot give assignment 1 before I collect it from them, post the solution and give the second assignment. So I have to go till February 15th to collect my assignments. So there are issues that hinders our practice, our normal practice. If DRC wants to give accommodation, I have no problem. I totally understand that is the law, that is the policy of UBC, but they cannot impose it on me to act. They have been funded, they have people, they have budget to do that. So they are dumping it on me. And this is not right. I have to compromise something here. And I don't like to.
I heard you, Hamiu. Let's hear from Jonathan and Meherran first.
Yeah, thank you, Humayun. Actually, you echoed a lot of the input that I've heard and actually I've felt myself. It seemed that the DRC has changed. So it used to work beautifully, like they would take care of the exams and stuff. And I was always impressed with how well it worked. But it seemed this year the expectation was that we would be playing with everyone's assignment times and quiz times. And like I have 400 students right now, and it just, like I can't. And even as you mentioned about multiple clicks, like you start getting all these additional factors in there. Like I had one, the fiber optic cable that comes to my country was cut yesterday. You know, stuff like that you're processing. So it becomes very logistically challenging. So I've done what you're regretting doing, which is I just make the quizzes open to everyone for a long period of time. And admittedly, it's not a good test anymore for that. But I felt like the difference was that somehow this year, the DRC activities were transferred to us as opposed to them looking after that additional time. That's my 2 cents.
Just one thing, I know we have Mehran and Ahmad. Just one thing is that they're going to get more help, hopefully before the final exam. So they will help us. They will help us to do this. They don't have the personnel right now. You know that the hiring freeze and hiring chill happened for many admin unit, and one of them were DRC. So that's why they couldn't hire. That's why I'm offering you from the school point of view, we hire the TAs to do that. So
Yeah.
all you need to give that to the TA and they can do it for you.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's more the fact that we had been working before with things like pop quizzes and assignments weren't part of the guise of DRC. Somehow that's worked its way in. That's essentially my question. And I think
that
was
has
related.
changed.
Yeah,
that has changed. Mehran, I think your hand was up, and then we have Ahmad.
Humayun, I understand the frustration. I have 600 students too every semester, so I know how it works. Just one thing about the assignment. We don't need to give them extension for the assignment. I checked with DRC, it's only for the exam. So the due date of the assignments should not change for DRC students. Another thing for Yang, can we ask IT to change this in Canvas? It shouldn't be that difficult. In the beginning of a semester, we should be able to make a group, and whenever we design a Canvas, it should automatically increase the time for DRC students. I don't think it's very difficult. Maybe we should talk to IT or CTL.
Can I add another information? Are you receiving an email before 1 week, normally 1 week before the quiz? The email will list how many students have requested extended number of time. So not all DRC students request for the quiz or the midterm, right? So for example, my first quiz, I only had 2 students requested, even though I had maybe over 10 DRC students. So you basically only deal with 2 students for that particular quiz. Of course, midterm final will be more. So who else is Ahmed? You have a question? Yeah.
Yeah, a couple comments. I echo Mehran's comment there. It's not for assignments. Assignments will give them a week, 10 days. We're not going to give them extra time. My understanding DRC is for those people who get anxious, stressed, whatever, during an exam because it's limited time. So I'm not going to give extra time for assignments. Sorry. If the new, rules have changed.
Sorry, Ahmad, but I send you a link that the students share. I don't know what DRC is talking about when they talk to Mehran. This is the link a student send. You have to give them, with assignment, if they request, you have to give them. I send you the link to everyone, you can check it.
I'm not going to do that.
Telling you
I'm not going to do
post
that.
something else for students on their website.
I'm not going to do that.
I don't like to do that either, but then the students send me this email with this link.
Then let them talk to DRC. I'm not going to do that, sorry. The other thing is regarding the exams, the 1.25 and 1.5 times. What I did last spring, I just gave them all the same time, 1.5. Because 1.25 is the minimum. So if I give them 1.5, then that basically covers everyone, and it's simple thing to do and don't have to go student by student with different times. So well, that's just a suggestion.
Ahmad, I have seen all of them. Then the student who has 1.5 goes and says, I'm not, I have the same time that the 1.25 has, but I have to have more.
They wouldn't know that first. Second, they're given 1.5 times. Even if they knew, they'd given 1.5 times from DRC. I gave you 1.5 times. That's it. What I did with other students has nothing to do with you. You're not involved with the other students. Each student is different.
Okay.
Anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Can I maybe ask for a consistency? I mean, I understand that you're trying to save this. Actually, maximum I saw is a two hour or even 2.5. So if you do have a lot of students in your class that you feel this is adding additional time and effort, stress. So as Mina suggested, we can use a TA to assign additional time for DRC student. But of course, if you choose blank accommodation, you don't need that. And Eamon and Stephen.
Okay. Another concern I have is the amount of lot of emails I'm getting from DRC every week, because I have a weekly quizzes. And let us say I have quizzes on Friday. So most of the time, myself and the TA will work until the last minute and we do the quiz on Thursday, sometime afternoon. So during Wednesday and Thursday, I got like almost tens of email from the DRC office. You have a scheduled quiz and you didn't post it yet. You didn't change the timing or extended timing. So this is actually what bothered me a lot, the amount. So I wish if they give me the list at the beginning of the semester and they trust my judgment. So don't send me any more email, okay? Because I'm getting lots of email every week and now I don't even look at them. Delete, delete, delete all the way. So this kind of email traffic remind me I have a quiz coming tomorrow and they didn't change the timing for my student. This is actually somehow bother me a lot. So if we have a mechanism, and I actually support Mehran proposal, I think maybe we can give it as an assignment to one of our rovers. We can have this immediately. The list will come from the DRC without any interference. And the Canvas system will allocate, whenever I create quiz, will give this group the allocated extra time. I don't have even to interfere. So maybe this is, I add my voice to Mehran's suggestion. I think it's something we should push for, even within the IT services or any other, to get this burden from us. Thank you.
Stephen.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with DRC, and I'm not excusing it, I'm just explaining it, is the fact that none of them have taught a course. So they don't quite understand the implications. Plus, they're completely unfamiliar with the large courses with large numbers of students that we teach, wherein some of their ideas would work well for a class of 10, but become completely ineffective when the class is scaled up to 300. And I'm wondering, Mina, if maybe we could work with them, sort of explaining what our challenges are. I mean, in the long run, to avoid these problems, because these problems with DRC have existed long before. You remember, Yang, when the challenges with, you remember that DRC thing that you had to sign up every single student? And you remember how painful that was, for example, from the past, right? So anyway, just thought I'd sort of give you my perspective.
Even based on my honest conversation with Erling, I think the DRC's capacity right now is to, of course, admit students into the DRC program, and then they actually have access to your Canvas, and they can access basically the quiz that you have designed and to check whether you have extended it. That's why you're getting the email, whether the student had been assigned additional time or not. So, but unfortunately, they're not doing this assignment of additional time. They're only checking it. Kasun.
Thank you, Yang. Now, Yang, I had a discussion with you on this topic in the past, and thank you for helping me in that immediate instance. Now, I think we all are facing these sort of pressures now, additional pressures in this online environment, and I appreciate what Mina has proposed. Now, in this situation, we have to find a solution. Now, the solution, what I see is some sort of additional support in our courses where a TA or a trained professional coming and handling those DRC issues as per the UBC guidelines. So you can train those people quickly and let those people to handle the DRC issues in our courses, especially when you are teaching bigger courses. I think that will resolve many of these issues if we cannot get the DRC support. That's the help school can provide to us immediately. Thank you.
Yeah, because this is why I think we're soliciting whether you need this TA support or not, right? I mean, if you have a small class, you don't feel like you need it, then that's fine. But if you're a bigger class and you still want a timed exam or quiz, which means you had to set up additional time for DRC, then the school, I think Amina said, will provide the support.
And Kasun, I got your email, and so what happens, please, when you send your email with the name of the TA, and I just Kasun got it, CC Yang and Teo as well, so we can compile all the name based on the TA name and the name of the course, so I can send it to Arlene to start training the TA for the confidentiality, and then we start working with this TA. So absolutely, Kasun, anything a school can do to release pressure from instructor to make sure that our students are happy and you're happy, please do that. These are the very different times, And I wanted to make sure that you are not the receiving end as well. I don't want you guys also feel stress and anger.
Thank you, Vinay.
Maren, you had another thing to add?
Yes, I have something for Humayun. Humayun, if you look at the accommodation letters of your DRC students, that 1.5 or 1.25 is under test exam, right? It's not, assignment is not mentioned. I asked asked DRC whether I should give extra time for assignments too. They said, no, this is under test exam accommodation, so you should just give for test and exams. Just check the accommodation letter of the DRC student.
Is it possible that there's also an item to specifically saying extend assignment?
I haven't had any like that.
Right. Yeah, the student in your class, Homu, I think I mentioned that that student does special case.
And one thing, Mina, what you said is correct. Thank you very much for understanding. But really, teaching online needs more time, especially for all of us. You know, now let's assume, I just want to talk about lecturers. We are teaching 8 courses per year. That's a lot, you know, as having 500 students, 600 students every semester. And just now that I'm in this meeting, I have received 20 emails from students. They keep sending emails and we don't want to, you know, spam them with lots of group emails, so we should reply one by one. So it's just telling you it's a headache teaching online like this.
So now it's good, actually, it's a nice segue away from this DRC issue. So we are getting a question about the load of the faculty. This is what I like to hear from our lecturers as well as our professors in teaching stream and research stream, that what should we do? I mean, sorry, I'm not teaching this term, I'm teaching next term. So if I taught this term, maybe I had better understanding of the issues, but what can we do from the school point of view to help you? So this is where we are here. And maybe you can share with us your insights into what are the things work better, make it more efficient for your course that we all can learn, and what are the things we shouldn't do because they're just wasting the time of the instructor and students.
Yeah, before we move on, can I maybe just quickly summarize what a DRC is? We'll tidy it up here. First, if you are going to design timed quiz, so basically fixed time quiz or exam, please follow the procedures that I sent it out. There's a procedures how to accommodate DRC students. Now, if you are a blank accommodation, then you don't need that. Certainly, you have to clarify with the student that you already provided accommodation. And if you need support to accommodate DRC student, then email me and who else? Tia, maybe, right? The support you need.
And we don't need to extend assignments.
Assignments, this is if you can look into the DRC accommodation letter, if there's no specific mentioning of assignment support, accommodation, then you don't need to, right? So there's just basically be a case by case, you know, if you feel you should, then you should, yeah.
Thank you.
And sorry, Yang Kasun here. Yang, if I remember correctly, in the last semester, if our, let's say for exam, if we gave 24 hours, I believe DRC said that no additional time is needed for the DRC. I believe the same rule applies for the assignments as well, right? I'm not sure. For the assignment, if the turnout time is more than 24 hours, then probably you don't need to have that additional time for the DRC.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, any request of assignment, as I said, is case by case. If a student saying, you know, they had a trouble with family or whatever, right? You feel like it's necessary, just give them a day or two to extend.
So can I ask you a favor? I know we are like lingering on this topic, but just a quick request. Is it possible that this is communicated what a DRC students can ask for by DRC to the students, instead of I'm just going back and forth with Mehran. I know what is the rule. The thing is that the student is asking me, I'm forwarding this, and I have to explain. So someone in DRC has not made it clear that what is their accommodation. And it's not my job to explain this, right? So if you, just an email from DRC, number one, this is what you can ask. Number two, this is what you cannot ask. Clarify, then it's clear for the students, and they say, do not ask the instructor. You are talking to us because we are accommodating you.
Oh yeah, I can tell Erling to clarify with student expectations, right, are restricted to the accommodation letter. Anything outside that, it's up to instructor, of course, but it's not obligated.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sorry, I'll get back to everybody. Mina, shall we get on with the lab production?
Yes, so we passed half of our time for the DRC, which is great discussion, but let's just now move to our lab production. So we already had the lab production for term 1, so we know how it works. For term 1 took a bit longer because we had to hire the TAs as well as we had to have the work safe plan, but now we have all of those. So I'm hoping that if the instructors, they know what their labs are going to look like, they can work with their TAs, which they should know by now, and our technicians to do that. But as I said, there are many more labs in term 2, so time is limited. Start now, but I think I'd like to hear from those who recorded their labs, the experience and how it went and what we need to do better for students and so on and so forth. Wilson, I think, sorry, Stephen, your hand is up. Are you still up because you have a question or comments, or is from the previous round?
I do on the last topic.
Oh, okay.
Related
Wilson,
to DRC and midterms. I apologize if I missed an email or something, but I still feel somewhat in the dark about, I guess, about midterms and finals. Are we looking at a standard in terms of 24-hour, or do we still have flexibility? So most midterms are typically in class, 50 minutes or 80 minutes, right? Do we have a school standard? Is it expected to be 24 hours? Or if we don't, I think it would be really happy just to, it would help us just to standardize that.
Yeah, Wilson, I suggest timed exam because 24-hour has proven that student grades are being bloated. So
100%, I agree.
Yeah. So, but
so then what? Like,
you
I mean, if we all stuck to the same guidelines, then we wouldn't have students, emailing us. Well, we get this in another class, and much like final exams are 3 hours in person. What is the equivalent we're going to do here? That's really where I'd like to see us go, with less flexibility.
Well, yeah, as I suggested, the timed exam is #1 choice, but if you give 24, I mean, it's your freedom, right? And nobody should complain.
So the timed exam, okay, if it's a standard in class 80, what should we be going with? See, I mean, it's just my opinion, but this is just too flexible. It's causing so many problems.
I agree with that.
I agree too.
Yang, this is Kasun here. Like now, for this one, actually, from the beginning of the class, I made a rule that 3 hours will be 3 hours. There will be a timed exam, but I allow students 24-hour window to access the exam. So if somebody is in China or in any other part of the country or world, they can access the exam. But as soon as the exam, there's a timer. 3 hours is 3 hours, except for DRC students. Thank you.
Right, I agree with that. I mean, something along those lines. I hope we move towards standardizing as a school.
Well, this is more pedagogical. I don't know if you can standardize this, right?
We have standardized for in-person exams. Why can't we standardize this?
Well, listen, if we standardize, I'm sure some other people will come. Well, let's say what standardize you? There's 24-hour, or so there's different person, different opinion here.
Pick one. We have, like I said, we have a standard for in-person. So
we have the exam integrity, and we have our reputation. 24 hours exam, or even what Kasun suggested, 3 hours time limit, but you can open it in any 24 hours, is not the way to go. That's basically will allow students to communicate, will, as Yang said, inflate the numbers, the average. We should have a standard, yes, based on exam integrity and based on academic misconduct. 24 hours shouldn't be the norm. Actually, I would suggest if somebody wants to do 24 hours, they have to send Mina or Yang a rationale why they want to do 24 hours. The norm shouldn't be 24 hours. It's 3 hours. What you scheduled, yes, you have different people in different time zones. Then you communicate with those people and say, I'm gonna open the exam at this time for you. And it is gonna be 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever the time of the exam. So you can divide your class into groups based on the time zone that you have, and open the quiz or the exam at specific time for different groups. And it is 2 hours, and everybody's basically working on that. It's not 24 hours. It's not up to the students to basically, you could have 2 students in Kelowna, and one opening the exam at 9 in the morning and the other one is at 1 in the afternoon. And guess what? They will communicate with each other. They will talk with each other. So,
yeah, but Ahmad, they can also sit together in the same room at the same time. You know, the fact is that the integrity of the exam is questionable, no matter how you do it.
which means we have to do extra
yeah,
steps.
But what I'm saying is that I know what the solution Kasun said, maybe retrofit some of the problem with opening it for 20 hours. What you are saying, retrofit some of the problems that Kasun method may have, but yours also is subject to flaw because 5 of them, they can sit in the same room.
True.
So
and that's the extra steps that we have to do.
Why bothering ourselves?
That's the extra step that we have to do online.
No, there is no extra. No, I'm saying the step you showed take care of Kasun's scenario, but yours is subject to flaw. 5 people can sit together.
Yes, and that's why I'm not gonna give them basically the same exam. That's why I would have multiple
if you're not giving
versions
the same
of the exam.
Okay, so if you're not giving the same exam, then what the matter if it's opening in 3 hours or in 24 hours?
The matter is that the 5 exams, if I'm doing 5 different versions or 4 different versions, the exams more or less would be the same because I want to be fair to all the different students. So a student opening an exam at 9 and another one at 1, they know the questions. They may not know the specific of each question, but they know like the top of the question, which chapter is what to expect, and they will prepare for it. But with 5 people doing it at the same time in the same room, 5 people would have 2 or 3 different versions of the exam. They won't be able to communicate because you have a time limit of 2 hours. They have to finish it in 2 hours. Communication, that means losing time. Again, we have to do the extra work here of preparing different versions of the exam, of scheduling the exams at specific times for students, not to open it for 24 hours. Sorry, it's not the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, let's listen from Thomas and then Laura. Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Yang. So I just want to go back to the lab topic so I can share my experience. I'm teaching a microelectronics 2 course. It has labs. And so I have found, I did pre-record in the summer the labs, but lab design for online, it definitely requires more thought. There is no question of that. And I really suggest anybody who's doing a lab for next term to think about that. So it's particularly about assessment. I think assessment, you know, they're not getting the hands-on experience. And so for instance, in my course now, I've actually introduced questions about even like the test equipment, if you're operating certain controls, looking at the user manuals for them, data sheets, you know, the components, trying to, you know, get them to look at, you know, specific questions to address that. And then, you know, software design. So they're, you know, using software simulation tools so they can do design related questions. But and I think it's good for them to see actual experiments. It's interesting, but it's quite hard to actually assess, something you see in a video. It's just not that easy. I don't know, maybe in a screen capture of an oscilloscope display, read some data or something, but it's quite different. Maybe I just wanted to share that.
Josh, do you want to add some? I know you have also a lot of experience.
Sure, Yang, thank you. So I would echo what Thomas said, that the labs are really different. For my class, it's a fluid mechanics class. The labs are very big, and in terms of the actual apparatus is large. And so taking the videos, we created the videos in the summer, and some of you may have seen some of them because I was done early, and so I shared them with our colleagues so that it would be just a way of how to do it. And the tricky part is now that the actual lab sessions themselves, we have a little bit of a shortage of what to do, because we ask the students to watch these labs, and then we talk about the labs, and we ask questions about the labs, and we answer their questions. And then they have a lab report that they write, which is essentially based on the data that we give them, the experiment that they watch, and then aggregating that into an actual report. And they do that as a group. But it's really not the same. And I would echo what Thomas said, that it is really quite different. And pedagogically, I don't think what we did this term is the best. I would probably change things if I had to do it again in the future, and make it a little bit more interactive, and maybe asking some different types of questions. But I'm happy with at least the videos. I think that the equipment and the know-how within the school was good to give us the opportunity to create, I hope, relatively good quality videos, so that although the students can't see the experiments, can't do the experiments themselves, they can see a relatively good representation of what's taking place.
So it sounds like making the video is an easy part. The difficult part is assessment.
That's partially true, yeah. I think the most difficult part is actually conveying what the students are supposed to get out of these experiments.
Mm-hmm.
Yang, if I could just add one other thing that comes to mind. When we have on-campus labs in the laboratory, we schedule them. You've got, maybe 5 or 6 sections and students go in. I'm finding in the online environment, we have these scheduled lab sessions where a TA is available virtually, but really the utilization of them is quite low. And in actual fact, I would say this is maybe where in the online environment we have an advantage. Once you're organized, you literally could just have one session and it's asynchronous. Labs are more asynchronous, and maybe a TA is available, pick a couple of times a week or something, and students can just drop in and ask questions. But I would almost, so for instance, I've actually cut down the number of lab sessions, and everybody's on the same week. You don't have to worry about, 2-week schedules and trying to line things up. So those are actually good things in the online environment if you want to make use of that.
I suggested that last summer. I looked at, a 4th-year course with 60 some odd students in 3 lab sections, and kind of asked why, and it couldn't be changed. So I don't know. The students still have schedules. So how is that working, Thomas?
Well, I haven't had any complaints.
Okay.
I think maybe picking a time that's like an alternating week, like it's a Thursday. So as an example, Thursday afternoons. And I think they all are in one or the other. I don't think there's any conflicting labs. But maybe the other thing is, Wilson, there's just a lot of asynchronous work on labs. I would say a quarter of the students even attend a lab.
Well, I agree. So I
really
have
low.
lab videos posted, and the TAs are available in these different times, and it just doesn't seem like optimal use of resources.
So we're on the topic of labs now, and then we'll go back to the topic of final exams, okay? So for now, we'll talk about the labs. Alec, I want Alec and Emily to chime in based on their experience. And then Sam Charles, if you got something to say, please. Alec, you want to say something?
I just quickly posted something in the chat there that some of the professors, rather than having the lab viewed before the section, that they're actually running through it during that time and pausing to answer questions and stuff like that. So I guess in a sense it's up to the professor as to whether it's more beneficial to have the content looked at prior or during.
Okay. Emily and then Sam.
Yeah, I think for the lab video, I think first from the TA, I think to select the experienced TA will be beneficial. Yeah, if it's better for the TA they did these experiments before, so in this case, let us review the lab experiments and quickly get on to make the lab video. Otherwise, I think other kids are very smart, but if they are new, they need to take time to go over all the lab experiments. It will be very stressful for them to finish the lab video in a short time. The second one I mentioned for the professors and instructors. I think it's better for the professors and instructors to get involved in the lab video, help to review the scripts, and maybe the professor or instructor say something in the lab. It will be more attractive to the students, I think. The third one, I think for this lab 2, term 2 labs, I think we are ready to help to make the lab videos. The lab technicians, we can set up all the lab experiments and also help to film the lab. And I think a lab technician will shortly contact each lab course instructor to ask to confirm if the course lab needs to be recorded or not. If not, if they are going to use software, what kind of software do they need? So we are here all to support to make lab 2 term videos. Yeah.
Thank you. Sam, you got any tips on video production?
Well, I think I can send out the template that we created. I think Joshua used it, some others used it as well. Maybe helpful to just think about how you're approaching your videos, lay it all out ahead of yourself, ahead of time. And the other piece about the about doing labs is both Thomas's and Joshua's comments. Maybe you have to do the lab, have the TA do the lab, but do it wrong and make it almost like a choose your own adventure. Make every lab several components where you say, okay, what do you do next? So it's like what Debbie had also offered, sort of an avatar, but it can all be asynchronous. And then maybe part of the assessment is they have to tell you the right order of videos. So now that you've gotten to the end of video number 1, how we started the setup, what's the next step? You can either choose video 2 or video 3 and then show them, well, this is wrong if they picked 3 or whichever number. That could be another, but it takes a little bit longer because you have to think about that, make the errors on purpose, and then be able to communicate to that to the students.
Thank you. Dwayne, do you have a questions on the lab?
Yeah, I guess a question and a comment. Last spring when we switched over to online, I did my labs, the computational labs. And so I just ran them live with the class. And I had students that were in various time zones, and that seemed to work. And I'm hoping to do the same again. And for my labs, I've actually said I don't want any TAs involved. So the TA hours that were allocated to me have been pulled back into the school pool, because I think I would be much more effective at interacting for full 2 hours live with the students, running computational based labs. It worked before, and my question to, I guess, everybody is anybody doing that now? And are you finding that the access to the computers, because we have a limited number of computers on campus, is that working? are students able to log in at the time that the lab needs to occur? Because the software that they run will reside at on lab computers on campus. So that's a question I have for everyone.
And this is Joshua. I can answer that question. I'm doing the exact same right now for my computational fluid dynamics course. It's a 4th-year course, but I actually ask the students to download and install the software on their own personal computers, being that it's an open source software and freely available. And that works quite well. There is a little bit of a learning curve for a handful of the students, especially because it's a Linux-based software. So they have to first install a virtual machine, but it doesn't take more than a week or two of me sitting down with those handful of students, and it works. As if I had them accessing the lab, I don't know how that would work, especially since my class is more than 80 students. I think they would run out of workstations. But this approach works quite well, and it does take a couple of weeks for them to get used to the software, and I'm sharing screens with them often, but Collaborate Ultra works well for me to share the screen and be able to help them troubleshoot whatever problems they have. So I'm not at all displeased with this approach. And I also don't have a TA.
So Dwayne, myself and Dimitri, we are using a software, and that software has to be on university computers. And this is for large classes. So what we have done, our TAs has developed an Excel sheet in that the time slots are there. So students, they go and book 4 hours time slot. In that, the group of students, they run their simulation. And once they are done, the next group take over. So we have 12 computers, and we have a lot of groups in manufacturing classes and the mechanical engineering. So they are using all these resources shared. So what I do, my TA actually go through with them all simulation. And after that, I have a full lab session with students to discuss about the results. And then they submit their lab report. So this way we are working. And I have also a question, Yang, regarding my term 2 lab preparation, because my term 2 labs for my 2 courses, 230 and 330, all will be in machine shop. And I have to do its lab videos. For my 330, I'm actually waiting for some equipment. Once it's there, I will set up my time for recording the videos. But my question is, can I involve my 3rd-year students while I'm doing those, while I'm developing those videos? Because that will be their content, and they will be few of students, not all. Those who are here in Kelowna, they will get involved, they will get hands-on experience, because the equipment is new, or everything is new. So either I have to train the lab TA, or I can get involved the students, and they will help me to set up all those experiments and run those experiments, and in that way they will have the hands-on experience. So can I involve my 3rd-year students? So this is my question.
Can I answer that, Yang?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hassan, no, unfortunately, we cannot have undergraduate students a part of the lab as well. We decided as the whole school to go online, and the students undergrad to be there as online. The TAs are different because they're part of our WorkSafe plan. For the undergraduate student, we didn't apply for the WorkSafe plan. So the TAs, they go through the training for the safety, they already been trained, and we're paying them to do that. So we cannot involve the undergraduate students in any of our lab this term.
So Mina, I have a here scenario, because when we talk about graduate TAs, so they have their PhD load, they have their studies load, and they have very, I'm facing this problem when we have to develop we have to go through all those simulation work, even though, so they always come up, okay, I'm not available this time, I have a classes this time, and I can only spend this much time. Now I've spent 2 hours, now I cannot go furthermore. On the other side, if 3rd-year students, that will be their lab session, that there will be that this will be their course, so they will get more involved, and they will not only learn that, they will also help me in much better way to develop those labs, those videos.
So Hassan, in the best scenario, yes, but we are not in our best scenario. Right now, there are so many constraints from health and university not to have the undergraduate at all. As I said, they are not part of our WorkSafe plan. So you need to work with your TAs. If you need more TAs, let us know, but we cannot have the undergraduate students to help.
Okay, thank you. And I have a just quick question from Joshua. So Joshua, my plan is I will actually run all experiment by myself. That will be recorded. And then I will give the data sheet to the students and they will actually do all analysis. So you are doing the same thing?
Yes, yes.
So that hands-on experience component is missing in all that only.
Yes.
Thank you.
Amayu, do you still have a question or comment?
Yeah, that was about the lab that I have. That's 480. It's a fourth-year course. It's a design elective, and students in the lab used to do their term project with the help of the TA. And on a positive note, I think this support in summer, I mentioned that before also, it helped a lot in preparation of the videos and the course material going into this. I use MATLAB. Students install it in their computers. But also MATLAB allows students who have less computational power on their laptops to go to their online version. It's a little bit lower functionality of what they can install in their computers, but at least the servers is gonna run it for them if their computer is not doing okay. So one thing that I experienced, these TAs being involved in the course, and that especially the TA during the lecture hours, I'm hoping that even if I go back one day and teach in the class, the TA being involved with the instructor is much more helpful than you give your additional problems for the TA to go and write it down on the board. I think this TA support in this way, I hope, is going to replace the tutorial sessions one day. The students communicate with the TA that is directly involved in the class with the instructor much more effectively than before when we had tutorials.
It's good to hear, Humayun, this, because there were a couple of courses that they always had the TA in their classes, and because of the pedagogical aspect of the course we allowed it, we never heard that it's really good. It's good to hear, actually. Maybe we reformat our TA hiring and process for the coming year after the online.
Before we move on to Jonathan and Stephen, maybe Ian has a question. Are we able to require students to buy a lab kit? I was under impression we could, but there were some challenges. Alec, can you confirm that can we ask the student to buy, or we can buy and then mail them to the student?
Yeah, apparently we're not allowed to ask the student to purchase it out of their own funds. So logistically, it ends up being a problem because we have to purchase all the kits for everybody and send them, you know, some are local and some of them are not. So the postage for the ones that are not gets to be, you know, a little astronomical, plus the number of students. It depends how many you want to send out.
So in other words, we probably shouldn't do that.
We did do it for a couple of courses in term one, but it was a struggle.
Can we do it for a smaller class?
Smaller classes would be easier.
Okay, so yeah, are you talking about a smaller class of yours?
No, I was talking 255, which is about 300 students.
Okay, so that's out of question. Jonathan and Stephen, did you have a question too?
Yes, I do, actually. Jonathan, do you want to go first?
Oh, Stephen, you were first. Go for it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan. I'm just wondering about the implications of all of this for accreditation. We're all, of course, trying to be flexible here, working within the system, but accreditation processes are still going on. Our students are still in the professional programs. I should point out that the nurses and the doctors are, I just bumped into a few nurses on campus, well, not literally, but on campus here. And the doctors are still very much in their residencies, et cetera, stuff like that. Are we concerned about this, and what sort of instruction have we received from CEAB, et cetera?
We haven't received very specific instruction for CEB, but the general understanding from CEB for sure in terms of online delivering contact hours. So they are fully aware of the challenge or the difference caused by the online teaching. And I know there's some people are working on this, but there are no specific guidelines or instructions for the contact hour based accreditation process yet.
Thank you.
Jonathan.
Actually, just to follow up on that, I remember in the spring that we were told from the accreditation boards to not worry about contact hours during the COVID thing. So they don't seem to be, it's not, basically they seem to be amicable about that, but I guess you'll wait for the details. I just wanted to echo what Homayun had said. These lecture support TAs have been amazing. Students in big classes, a couple hundred students are less scared to ask questions, and when they type them into the chat line. I found at first that I couldn't progress in my lectures because I was just continually answering questions, but I have my lecture support TAs answering simple questions along the way, and then every couple of minutes I stop to answer kind of the bigger, higher level questions, and that's worked really well. So long story short, you can have your TAs behind the scenes answering quick questions, and then get them to tell you about the high level questions.
Excellent. Just to add to that, Jonathan, the way that I do this also is that I create these breakout rooms. The TA goes into the breakout room. I stay in the general room. And you're right, when they go into that one-on-one, they have very good discussion. And then like the TA brings the comments to me in the end of the lecture that the student have this question generally, then I can maybe do that to everyone. But you're right, they are just more comfortable in those breakout rooms discussing with the TAs.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Great. At least one thing works. Any other comments or inputs on the online lab production? If not, and then we'll move on to the last topic, which is exams, final exams, and plus invigilation.
Yang, actually, I have a question.
Oh, Solomon, go ahead.
Homayun, how do you do the breakout room? Usually I have the TA support. They do it online when I'm teaching. So you do a breakout room? That would be interesting.
Yeah, basically what you have to do, unfortunately, only the host can do the breakouts.
Yeah.
What you do, but the co-host can walk around. So you have two options. Either you create the breakout rooms as the host, or you can do your TA to be the host and you become co-host. But before you do that, make sure that you allow multiple people to be able to share the screen. Otherwise, the host, if you make the student host, then he has to allow you to share the screen.
Sorry to pause you. You can make both hosts. If you do through Canvas, there is a way that you can have alternate host.
Alternative host. But
yes,
unfortunately, alternative host becomes co-host. It doesn't become host.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, yeah, that becomes co-host. But you can make them host before before they go out. But it's possible, yeah. They create the breakout. Yeah.
Perfect. I'll pick your brain on that, Homayun, after. Thank you.
Just one note, sorry. To solve that problem also, I mean, if you can log in before, I do the same thing, before computers, you can be in every room simultaneously. You don't need to be, you can go in one computer, do this and go there. So that's actually helpful that it kind of reduce lots of slack time.
How many computer do you have, Ray?
I use no, but I mean, it doesn't have to be an advanced computer, just your communicator. I have one top one with the SolidWorks and I have three more that, you know, I go to different groups. I also want to second that.
Sorry, Ray, I didn't get it. If you do log in all computers, then you can do
the same account, yes. So
okay.
You log in 4 different computers, and then you add yourself in 4 different groups at the same time. You have to be careful to mute other ones. At the same time, you can talk to that one group, and then you mute yourself, go to other one. You don't need keep asking people, you know, to go back and forth into the breakout room and outside.
And actually, to IT's credit, one thing wasn't possible in the beginning of the term, that you could not log into Canvas with 2 computers. But as the instructor, you can do multiple logins now. That's a good thing. So you can have your tablet on one computer, writing, and then your presentation on another one, or create breakout rooms.
One last thing also, I think there is an option, although when you go to the Zoom, it says you cannot be in multiple meetings, but there is a loophole. If you have a business license like a UBC, you actually can be in multiple meetings concurrently. And I send an email and request to the LCT in Vancouver. They are going to talk to them. There should be a little bit of kind of background programming for them to allow us actually to be in more than one meeting. That is actually better. The reason is better, like for example, for office hours, I get complaints that the students say it doesn't work, and I have certain number of hours. I actually combine all my office hours together. It's almost like a real office hour here. Students come here, I don't ask what class you are, so okay, what's the problem? And that improves the window that the students can come and attend your office hours. This is in progress. Hopefully we're done with the next couple of weeks.
So sorry, can you again go back? I'm sorry. So for the office hour, Ray, so you said to student, I'm going to have this office hours Wednesdays from 2 to 3:30. There was a problem with the Canvas to do that?
No, but if I said 2 to 3:30, for example, for APSA 171, I double my office hours for each course, but still a student either is not a good time because of the time zone, or it is concurrently with other courses. So the solution I came up with, I have all my office hours double, but also I allow students from different courses come to the meeting.
Oh, okay.
But you can't do that because you are in one meeting, you cannot go to other meeting, but Zoom has an option, you know, of course, all the solutions, you send that link to students in my third year and first year, but the student wants to go to Canvas and look at that office hours, clicking a button. So the new option allows that you will be in 2 different meetings at the same time.
Can you write a few paragraphs, Ray, just on that feature?
Sure. So what was the question someone else asked? I'm sorry. I hope it makes sense, right? Being in 2 different... No.
Let me explain, Ray.
Okay,
so we are teaching several courses. We want to have office hours of all of them at the same time. If you use Zoom, you cannot. That's what Ray is saying. Ray, I solved the problem by using Collaborate Ultra for office hours. Collaborate Ultra lets you log in different...
I know, but you're using Zoom. Collaborate Ultra is going to be gone next.
I use Zoom for teaching and Collaborate Ultra for office hours. That's how I solved it.
But Zoom will add for like a UBC that option too. Just click on a button, students come, you ask what courses you are, 4th year, okay, here. And then even you can take them to the private room, talk to them privately.
Claire, you got something to say?
Yes, I have a question. I missed the first part, and the question is regarding term 2 labs. So when are we going to have the TA list for term 2?
That's TA, not the lab production.
Not the lab. I'm teaching the 2nd year, so that my 2nd year has a lab. So we need to make videos for term 2 lab. But so far, I haven't got information about my TAs. So at the beginning of the term, I asked, but nobody answered my email.
So, sorry, Claire, the TAs have been hired. If you don't know, I really apologize. Contact Taya and CC me, and they will let you know who is your TA. All of you, if you don't know your TA for term to make the video, please make it right now. Ask Taya to send you the name. I know that process could have been better. So then you can start working with the technician.
Okay, great.
Mina,
Thank
this
you.
has been ongoing for years. When the TAs are sent their offers, can they not be just copied to the...
No, unfortunately, we talk to HR. You can't. We cannot.
Because even if I have my TAs, I often don't know how many hours they have, right?
Yeah.
I'd ask them to send me their hours if they're willing, right?
Yeah. So I'm working with HR to make sure that the instructor of the course gets the offer of if they can, the offer of the TA. But basically, the TAs are the employees; they're not the students. And one employee cannot see the offer letter of another employee. And I mean, when I give an offer, for example, to assistant professor hire, you guys won't see the offer. So that is the glitch there. So I'm working on it to make sure this is streamlined for our faculty. But what I don't want is that our faculty members, they don't know who their TAs are. So as soon as, if you don't know for term 2, I really apologize. We could have done an Excel sheet, not the offer letter, send you the name. If it's not sent to you, please contact Taya ASAP and CC me as well.
I'm assuming, I don't think anybody has it. I don't, so.
I think so.
Probably
You're
I'll
right.
go out.
I think you're right, Wilson. So I think you should follow up. I'm really sorry.
But I guess it could be done globally rather than all of us following up.
Okay, so I can
Thank
ask you to send as an Excel sheet for each course the TA's name to everybody.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank
okay.
you.
Okay.
But not number of the hours, right, Mina?
No, the number of hours is between you and your TAs. I don't think in that Excel sheet will tell anybody anything that if I add the number of hours. I just send the names and the course the course number and the name of the TAs.
Thank you.
The number of hours would be helpful if that's allowed, because then we know
how many hours. Okay, let me ask you if they allow us to put in that Excel sheet. If not, then we will find another way to do that.
Amina, the number of hours, make sure they're consistent. Somehow when I ask my TA the number of hours, the same function, there's some discrepancy there. You know, it'll be awkward for the TA to know they get different number of hours, but doing the same job. Any other question on the same topic? Then we're gonna move to the last topic, the hated topic, the type exams or and then the invigilations. Okay, so back to the topic. Should we standardize our exam, or should I, as I strongly recommend a certain type, and then but still leave it to our instructors for their degree freedom to design their final exam or midterm.
Can I comment? I mean, I guess I raised that issue earlier. I mean, I would like to see it standardized. I'm sure I probably won't agree with what's standardized, but that's a fact of life. I think it'll just help us all. Yeah.
Could I add something?
Go ahead, Henry.
I think it's very difficult. It depends on the definition of standardized. So because we're teaching different courses, there are different expectations, and I think also it somehow compromise the integrity of academic freedom. I should have, my way of evaluating my students based on what I teach. So
but my counterpoint is, sorry, Ray, we have normally a 3-hour in-person exam that we can apply for exemptions to shorten that, but that's it, right? So I don't see how this is different. Standardizing it will be on Canvas, whether it's upload, whatever, we should still have that freedom. But I just like to see it's Canvas and the time.
Oh, I see. That's all you meant, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's all I meant. If
so
it's
I thought that
3-hour final, is it 3 hours plus 1 hour tech time, or 3 hours? How long is it the window open? I'd like to see all that standardized.
Or maybe there's no window at all, right?
Preferably for midterms too, but maybe we're too late for that. But
yeah, sure.
At least for next term.
Yeah, I was going to say for midterms, I've already posted my information, so I can't change anything at this point.
But we could get that sorted out for next term, I hope.
Yeah.
The other thing, Yang, maybe you can help us. I have 2 kids of my sons in 2 different faculties, and they keep laughing at me when I show them the flexibility we show in our school. Okay, they have very strict, they have proctoring. They know from day one they will have proctoring for final and too many restriction. So maybe through the vice dean meeting or anything, you let us know, or they have, if other faculty have consistency, why not do we have? I think, because I think other schools or other faculties, they became very strict regarding their final exam. So I think maybe we should have ours as well. Thank you.
The general guideline comes from Carroll, the Applied Science Committee. Actually, they basically give you 3 options. They didn't mandate that you have to have to use proctorial, right? So that's why we did not mandate everybody to be exactly the same. But as Wilson suggested, right? So maybe the minimum standard, for example, time final exam. But if you do want a 24-hour type exam, you can make a case. So that's what I mean by probably what the standardized mean here.
Yeah, and can you also please comment on, for example, in my exam, I don't know whether it's right or wrong. I have 2 parts. One is you do it, write down whatever, like you could fill up the blank or essay. The other one, they have to submit something. I ask my students at any time, you have to have your camera on. You cannot have, you cannot move from your place. And also I asked them, anything you submit, they have to have on every single page, they have to have their student ID clearly on the right top corner. So it's all good, right? I mean, I just want to say I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, that's all good. That's actually sort of compromise from the proctorial, right? So you basically using Zoom and you're asking to turn
No, I
on
also
camera.
would like to use the block there for some exams. You know, if the exam is open book, that's okay. But if a closed book, I would like that they do not access internet.
So Ray, you asked your student to like scan their student ID along with?
No, yeah, well, either most of them they want to scan, or they perhaps they use a snapshot from a good camera. I told them. So in every single page, they have to have their signature on one side, their student ID, and then the writing. It's only about 2 or 3 pages that they have to actually solve.
Thank you. You solved my problem. Yeah, I was facing this issue. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I will ask to do that.
That person did that, and I said that in one cases, some students said that what if my camera is not good? I told them, okay, you send me with whatever you can. I have that even poor quality. Then you can add a better copy of the same, exact same. You can scan it.
Ray, this is Kasum here. Like, now something came to my mind. If a student says, my camera is not working, I have no money to buy a new camera, then how do we solve that problem?
Well, they're using yeah, they could say that. Everyone have to have a phone at least. If you don't have phone or their phone is not working, I don't know.
Ray, I got a new computer and it doesn't have a camera, for example.
Yeah,
not a working one.
Well, I mean, I know yours is a kind of exception. Somehow they have to submit it to me in the form of writing. I talked to all of them, and all of them they said that they can do it. If there is one case, then I don't know. I have to ask the person. The worst case scenario, they have to actually show me, and I have to snapshot of what they have in my computer, and we take it from there. Because I can't get an exam that is like a drawing course. How can I have a drawing course, multiple choice, So they have to draw something actually.
Yeah, I agree. If you give them enough notice and they let you know their challenge, right?
Yeah,
something can be worked out. So actually earlier in September, I had a presentation. Basically, it's the type of recommendations, how to use a Zoom, right? How to invigilate and timed exam for final. As a matter of fact, I think all of the final exam right now, as long as you haven't specified anything to Keela, all of the course should have a final exam scheduled, 3 hours. So you do have that time slot will be scheduled by the university. So any objections to, this is where I feel like, I don't know if school engineering can mandate everybody to use timed 3-hour final exam, right? But you still have to consider the time they use to scan and upload the document, of course. If everybody's on board, I mean, we can certainly do that. This is basically the minimum standard, right, for final exam.
Actually, Yang, can I comment for a second?
Yeah.
We're a professional faculty. Being a professional faculty, we should expect professional conduct on the part of our students, which means if we provide them exact rules and conditions under which the examination is to be written, i.e. certain period of time, no use of external resources, etc., they should follow those rules. If not, perhaps they've chosen the wrong career.
No question about that. Yeah, I completely agree.
Can I add just one thing there? I've seen in statements elsewhere that some professional programs require invigilation, require it. Do you happen to know, I don't know, does engineering have a requirement for invigilation in exams?
Require basically, the proctorial is the closest require invigilation, right? I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other type of requiring visualization is what sort of compromise to use Zoom, but it's not a perfect solution. I mean, you cannot see their workspace. You could see the people working behind a computer for sure, but it's not as rigid, strict as Proctorial. But Proctorial is still supported by UBC, even though it's so controversial.
No, I just see Proctoria creating potential lawsuits. It's not worth it.
And it is not 100% proof there. They can always have another laptop basically, or another device that they can go online with it. So
They can go to the washroom too, right? Like
that too.
This is I don't buy any of this proctoring. It's
so
I don't see how it's workable.
that's
There's a lot
why
of effort for
that's
nothing.
why the effort has to be from us to design the exam in a way that
100%.
we try as much as possible minimize academic misconduct, cheating. It's not going to be 100%, but try to make it above 90% as much as possible. So
yeah, I agree 100%.
So it sounds like I don't hear any objections here. So the if I summarize here, we will use time limited final exam. We use Zoom for invigilation. You can work out the details how to use Zoom with your TA. If you have a large class, then you probably have to create 2 Zoom links, one from you, one from the TA, right? We can certainly provide more TA for invigilation to look at the cameras, basically, each small windows. And the type of examination should be Canvas quiz, right? There are different type of assessment on Canvas quiz, of course. And you should have a bank of questions, hopefully can be randomized so that nobody can get exactly the same copy.
Jan, can you hear me?
Yes.
I mean, I second Stephen. Say, for example, my design course, it's a problem they have to solve. It's not something I can really randomize it. And one article at one point, for example, I have seen from Caltech before this COVID, like a long time back, the way they do the exam is they give it to them, they go home and they tell them, okay, they are allowed to have 3 hours to solve the exam. So they go home, they solve it within 3 hours and they couldn't finish it. They put a line, okay, this is where I stopped. So the more we do policing, the more opportunity we create for cheating. I mean, there's no way we can police it. Even if I put camera, I told them and so forth, they can have a paper slip, they can give it to a person sitting in front of them, they can solve it to them, they can get it back, they can still. So, I mean, the more we do policing, the more we're giving them opportunity. What I have done is, in my course outline at the beginning, there's the information I received from you. They signed academic conduct and misconduct. So they have all submitted it on Canvas. So I'm going to trust them. So, and then the quiz I try to randomize, but the exam is a problem they have to solve. Maybe what we can do is, I don't want to do multiple versions because, I mean, the onus is on them. At the end is, maybe I can say also for midterm, I'll interview them. Then I can ask them, okay, how did they solve it? I grade it. Okay, how did they solve it? And then I can have those type of interaction, random sampling interactions. Or if I suspect there are some, plagiarism. So the more we do policing, I think, I second Stephen, we're working a professional. That's what we should instill in them. Calculators, we cannot cheat this calculator, that calculator. If we start going through those policing, then that means, Stephen, I agree with him, they shouldn't be here. So we should instill professionalism. That's the future reason. That's how we should maybe start thinking more.
Solomon, I agree. I think the thing is here is we're trying to move away from the completely 24-hour, everybody's free to do that kind of no constraints situation to a little more stricter to minimize the possible academic misconduct.
With what I have done with my quiz, for example, they have that 1 hour, so they can open it any time within that time period. As soon as they open it, they have that 1 hour. But with time zone, how can you solve it now? People 15 hours in China and student we have here.
That's where the Canvas will come in handy. If you can have a bank question, then you can always create another exam from the bank question for those out of the different time zones.
Now,
Kasun has a question.
Oh,
now I echo what Solomon said. Now there are students in different time zones, and it's unfair for certain students to ask wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and start writing a 3-hour exam, right? So in that case, now if I understood you correctly, what you are saying is that, yeah, we have a timed exam, different versions, like you can have multiple different versions of that exam. But when a student accesses it within a 24-hour time frame, it is timed, right? But are you asking a specific time or a kind of a 3-hour time slot within 24 hours?
I am suggesting specific time.
Yeah.
For that case, I can give you an example. I have a quiz tomorrow at 8 during my lecture time, starts at 8. So anyone within 12 hours, they can write the quiz. I have a few students who are 14, 15 hours ahead. So obviously I'm not gonna ask them to write the quiz at 8 my time because it's almost mid-time their time. So I told them, you will be writing the quiz at 6 p.m. my time, which is 9 a.m. the next morning their time. So everybody else is writing the quiz at 8 tomorrow morning because everybody else is within 12 hours. And those few students, 3 or 4 students in my class, they will be writing it at another time. And I told them which time, and they agreed on it. So I'm gonna open the quiz for everyone tomorrow at 8. And then for those few students, I will open or Canvas automatically will open the quiz at 6 p.m. my time, 9 a.m. their time.
Now the question is the final exam, 3-hour final long exam. Now, in this particular case, now in my class, there are students from all over the world. Some are like attending the lectures now at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? So if I give them a paper in that time frame, I feel really bad for those folks. Like the other issue is that now in that case, I have to pick student by student, find out their time zone, where they are, and that's additional work from the instructor's side. So that's why I thought of that having, my exam is, by the way, open book. It's an open book exam, 3 hours, but
Mine
they have to
is
solve
open
some
book as well.
problems, different versions, but once they access, it's a 3-hour limit from that point.
Can I jump in here as well, please?
Laura, please.
Yeah, I'm really encouraged by this discussion on academic integrity in the exams and the back and forth about concerns whether or not, we should be focusing in on reducing opportunity for students to cheat, but also, what Solomon, Kasun, and Stephen as well have been saying about the discussions about professionalism and academic integrity and clear expectations being stated ahead of time. I think that there is benefit to some levels of standardization, but what Kasun says in terms of the 24-hour window, from an academic integrity perspective, it can be designed and done well. I think it's not appropriate for all classes. I think that with questions in that kind of 24-hour window that are more application-based, and so that it requires more individualized thought rather than, things that might be a bit more standardized of answers. That can be much more functional, but I'm a little bit hesitant to agree to the one-size-fits-all for all classes. I think some standardization framework, like the 3 hours of course, and some limitations with, some openness to exceptions for particular pedagogical reasons. But I think that cannot be replaced entirely or dealt with entirely without having those explicit discussions about expectations and how that relates to professionalism, so that students are really clear about what is the importance here. And so I really am encouraged by that those discussions are happening, and would love to hear more about that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Soon, can I add something what you mentioned? I agree that somehow it would be somehow unfair if it's 4 o'clock morning for me and I take a 3 hours exam. But part of the whole scenario is we are teaching them to be professional. What if this person, first of all, they're all adult, and second of all, they are going to be future engineers. So what if they got a job and their boss is in 14 hours different time zone? They have to attend. So that's, we are not asking every day to do it. There is an exam. There are 6 exams. Then sorry, you have to go to bed earlier or wake up or have a cup of coffee. You know, if you want to make an omelet, you have to crack a few eggs. I think this is a part, again, I agree with you that, you know, yours is different, but I don't think this is the end of the world. I asked them, there we go. You have to come 3 hours. Doesn't matter what time zone you are. And hopefully it's not 4 o'clock morning, maybe it's midnight or maybe it's 10 o'clock. I see this, it's not a huge, it's not the end of the world. One day you wake up early or you go to bed late because you have to take an exam. That's my
Ray, you're putting those students at a disadvantage, because if you're asking them to write an exam from midnight or from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. or 4 a.m., you're putting them at a disadvantage compared to students who just basically had a good night's sleep and they woke up at 8.
That's what I said. So this
some people don't sleep.
So you could assign them at a different time.
If they want to come to UBC, they have to take a flight probably at midnight. So we should say change the flight time because they cannot wake up.
And someone is in Vernon. So we disadvantage the Chinese guy to come here and someone is in Vernon. I think there is a level, even I like to be fair, but you will never be the fair. So it's just a level of compromise. And I think even the lesson students learn, that you as a professional future engineer, maybe you don't end up sleeping every day 10 hours. That's the life. Maybe some you have to wake up 4 o'clock morning. We all do.
Ray, yeah, thank you. Like I appreciate, but I go back to the first comment Meena made about this online teaching environment. We have to be accommodative as much as possible, right? So in this particular case, what I hear from the students who are even attending lectures in those midnight sessions, now I really see the kind of the equity issue. Like now, if it is in a class environment, all these students are together. So as an instructor, I try my best to provide the best accommodation for these folks all over the world. And I know that nothing is 100%, nothing is bulletproof. But as the instructor, I try my best to accommodate those folks. That's why I came up with that 24-hour window.
I think yours is a perfect solution, especially because you're open book. And I think it's a degree of freedom you have, and I appreciate that. But it's just the way that, I don't think if someone goes the other way, it's absolutely that person is 100% unfair and is very disadvantaged to the students.
So I see both sides.
Yeah.
Both sides in this, restricted 3 hours. I see that argument. I see the 24-hour argument. And I will say in 320 last year, I tried to go halfway in between and allowed, had a 12-hour open window. And the more we can tighten that, I think the better, but then we'll also try and be fair. So.
Can I add one comment? I know Sam will like me for that. So I would like to second Laura about having something or some statement about being a professionalism added to our introduction to the students. And I would like to know if the school would like to have a unified video, maybe, or some short video which we can all introduce to the student right before the final exam. And maybe we can play this video for the first couple of minutes or maybe the last week before the final, just to emphasize the point about being professional and you are about to graduate. If I'm teaching 4th year course, for example, and this is the reality. This is, we don't want to policing the students, and this is what you will be facing. So is there any way we can have a unified message from the school regarding this being professional and just a reminder to the students?
I think that's a great idea. And Laura is our integrity. I don't know what title is Laura. I really apologize.
Yeah, that's okay.
I think Laura, you should work on that and maybe make a video or message to a student, and we can all before the final exam or midterm starts send it to the social media.
I have one.
What we're currently working on with the ethics committee is to get language unified for the entire school for syllabi. Certainly a video, it would be very general. We could be looking into doing that before the exam. That would not though replace you having a very specific conversation to your students about what your expectations are. So I would really encourage that so that they know exactly what the expectations are within your exam.
I have a comment, maybe controversial, so I apologize. But part of the things that we are taught about professionalism in law and ethics is whistleblowing. Can we encourage students to do that too? And that is taught to engineers to do that if they see there is some wrongdoing.
That's an excellent idea.
And I actually I'm saying because last term, one of the students contacted me saying that another student has approached him asking questions during the exam. And if we encourage that, and that is part of the engineering professionalism, I don't think it's anything bad because we just, we have crime stoppers in the society and we have all that. I don't know if you think it's appropriate if we encourage that among our students. As an engineer, we are responsible to do it. Why not we do it early?
I think that student evidence is definitely one thing that is underutilized when it comes to academic integrity issues, because there are students who are really concerned that their own education is getting undermined because other people are cheating in some way, shape, or form. And it should be included in the academic misconduct submission that goes to the subcommittee that Loic is chairing underneath the ethics committee. As for promoting it as whistleblowing, I'd be a little bit, I think providing a mechanism for student reporting is one thing. I think we can certainly encourage that, but promoting as whistleblowing, I'm a little bit dubious just because I don't want it to be a culture of snitching on each other, if that makes any sense. But I like the idea in general and how we can support that.
If I may add something, I formally use this, well, Humayun said that in my 171, and I give students 2 reasons for doing it. Number one is the person who got 100% in, let's say, solid work, and he or she copied something from somewhere, you could have been that person. And he or she is taking your position. And the second thing is that you are doing a favor to that person, because by cheating today, he or she will fail a course. By cheating in 4 years, there will be a bridge falling on kids and elderly people. So, and I think they receive it very well. I have a confidential evaluation and the students actually very well taken it. And they all agree that, yeah, if someone did, I would be more than happy to report him or her. It's not about the snitching, or it's just about that even in our society, we do the same thing too. If something I do wrong, if I hit a car and run, there will be 50 people calling police and give my license. That's why I don't do it.
Now, Laura Kasum here, like the integrity pledge you have provided to us, I have 100% of the students in my class signed that pledge before we started any of the assignments of quizzes. We went student by student and asked all of them to sign it.
It is excellent. That's wonderful.
Ernest, we are running out of time. Let's hear from Ernest. And honestly, I don't think we can reach a conclusion today. Ernest.
Okay, I would just like to share something that I did during the summer term regarding the exam. I allowed students to choose 2 time slots, and these time slots are 12 hours apart. So I think an ideal time is 1 p.m. Kelowna time and 1 a.m. Kelowna time, and that would cater for almost everyone throughout the world. I did the difficult way. I put up a survey on Canvas to ask students to indicate the time that they prefer, and then I manually put these students, give these students the time. The easy way is to ask them to join Canvas groups. You can create a group called the 1 p.m. exam group and the 1 a.m. exam group, and ask students to join those groups automatically. And then those who don't indicate, you can group them as everyone else, and they will be given one of the default time. So that's one suggestion that we can take.
Ernest, for the final exam, I'm not sure we can do that because, universities schedule all the final exam, right? But we can certainly suggest the second one, the 1 a.m., that one we can suggest, but the other one we can't.
Okay, yeah, the official time can be set by the enrollment services, and maybe a default time will always be 12 hours difference, either before or after, but within the same calendar day, for example. Yeah, so that was my practice in the summer.
Good.
So I guess, we're running out of time and don't really want to take too much. So I guess I don't think we can reach a conclusion, right? I will maintain the original message, which is strongly recommend a fixed time, fixed date, final exam, but you can design an appropriate 24-hour, like a Kasung type of a 24-hour, but then excess 3-hour fixed time, right? You can also design completely 24-hour take-home exam, as long as you feel you can justify the appropriateness of this assessment. For first year, second year, I wouldn't say I would man it, but I would strongly recommend that this fixed time, fixed date, final exam.
Yang, why can't we go with the fixed time piece, like 3 hours or whatever plus tech time? There doesn't seem to be disagreement. There just seems to be disagreement on the access time or window. That's my comment.
Right, but still there's two options here, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but if we at least get it down to 3 hours is 3 hours, that's positive, because we had last spring, we had people that had a full 24 hours to do the exam, right? So is that?
I can try. Anybody against that?
Well, I go back. Yeah. We have an in-person policy that, maybe we all don't agree with, but it is what it is and we live with it. It would really help ourselves to get something as close to that as possible, whatever it may be. Whether it is a strict 3-hour window or the 24-hour window or a 12-hour window. But there's the time and then the window as I see it.
Okay, so the maximum you can do is 24-hour, but it has to be fixed time, time limited. And
perfect.
Of course,
if we go with that and everybody does that, great. I'm happy.
Okay, I can send out a message. Any objections from the remaining people at here? No. So that's a majority.
Is that for final exam or final exam and midterm exams?
Final exam, Jonathan.
Okay.
Yeah. Midterm, it's too late.
Then the question I have is the DRC is clear, it's 3 hours times the multiple. Do we have any extra for tech time or uploads, or should we just take that into account when we design the exam?
I think we should, because the university will schedule you for 3 hours.
Right, so we should really design a 2.5-hour exam that gives them a half an hour to take pictures and do uploads. So the 3 hours is firm. Is the next question. Good. That's really all I'm asking is.
Okay, I can send an email just to follow up here. I know there are probably people against it, but anyway, so if this is the majority consensus, I think we can live with that. All right.
Just one thing, Yang, can you make sure that goes to our sessionals as well? Because they weren't in this conversation.
They are. They're invited for today's. But I can I can certainly email to everybody.
There's a few faces I haven't seen. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm sure we can have a different opportunity to chat about all these contentious issues here. But in the meanwhile, take care of yourself. And we'll talk later.